Guys, today we are bringing you a special guest, Layla the Witch. Layla, welcome to our show. It's a really honor to have you on the show. We had many good words about you from the people we trust. So you are a really experienced witch. You practice Mexican witchcraft and other forms of occultism. So can you tell us more about your magical practice, how it started, what are the core tenets of your personal spirituality and mysticism?
Okay, well, hi. Nice to meet you. I've heard really great things about you too, and I did check out the show a few times, and it was amazing. I do consider myself more of an occultist. I am a witch, yes, I do practice. When it comes to personal beliefs, really, I'm trying to stay away from baneful magic as it is. I'm not saying that I don't do it, but it does sometimes matters really call for the moment. Basically, I like the phrase of live and let live. When I do talk to other occultists, I think it's hilarious because you start mentioning deities that you worship, and automatically anything that you say is absolutely wrong. And no matter what you say, whatever they did is right.
That is something that I run across. Yes, absolutely. And it's really funny. It's like how people try to gatekeep on the shit, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like you can't gatekeep what's in someone else's head or the kind of spiritual experiences that they have or anything. And
Absolutely.
people try to do that. They try to like micromanage like your fucking DNA and shit. It's crazy.
I started into magic after I renounced Catholicism. I was around like 12, 11 years old, and I kind of was wondering, hey, why is there other different kinds of churches, and why am I stuck in this one? When I tell people I got excommunicated, they automatically go into like the Exorcist movies and all that stuff, like, fuck you.
Okay, before
But
you continue, can you tell us, like, how the fuck are you excommunicated? So you are the first officially excommunicated person I have ever interviewed. So I had to ask about that, like 100%. That's like the craziest shit ever. Because, like, you usually have to put shit on fire to be excommunicated. But what you did, actually?
So it really depends on who you ask, but this is from my perspective. I think that I just asked all the right questions. And it was just after communion, and I was supposed to be making my confirmation, and I was taken into an office, and they said, listen, you can't be asking these questions, not unless you want to like go on and pursue sisterhood, you know? And I said, well, I don't want to be a sister, unfortunately. They said, well, we're going to have to let you go. I'm like, all right, I don't go to Sunday school, whatever. You have to erase you from these things. I'm all like, oh, so can we not tell grandma?
Wow. They like treated you like an informant, like a potential like
Oh,
informant, like intelligence.
and they should have known too, because when I was going to Sunday school and like going towards like communion, it was hilarious. I remember this one assignment they had us do. It's like, oh, draw your favorite thing from the Bible. And everyone's like, oh, the rainbow after the flood, Adam and Eve. And I'm like, I liked it when Judas hung himself, and I drew a picture of, yeah.
How old were you?
Oh, I don't remember. I was super young. I couldn't know more than like 8 or whatever.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I made my communion, made grandma happy, all that good stuff. And then right when I was a teenager, I'm like, hey guys, maybe why is there a King James Bible and another Bible? And of course, that's like the internet started to become like more of a thing for people to kind of get a hold of. And so I started reading a lot into like different kinds of books that were let out of the Bible and all that stuff. And I was like, wow, why isn't this in here? This seems cool. The Book of the Giants. Holy shit. They didn't necessarily like that.
Skipping forward a little bit. I mean, we'll jump into this as we go, but did you ever notice like I found that like a lot of those demons refer to the Old Testament a lot.
Oh,
Did that ever
absolutely.
happen with you?
Only as an adult, I kind of made the connection because demonic possession was still a very real thing for me at the time. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to get into that. I'm a little scared because, like,
Yeah.
it didn't really make a connection until later on in adulthood when I started deity worship with Lucifer and Asmodeus. And it took a lot of trial and error with other deities, but I found home within them too. And same thing with Santa Muerte. She called out to me in a dream, and it kind of solidified something that like, hey, maybe I should really like look more into her. And honestly, if it wasn't for Santa Muerte, I wouldn't have moved into the area that I moved in now, and I took it as a sign. There was this other place I was looking into, and it was right next to the Presbyterian church that My Chemical Romance used for their Helena video, and I'm all like, oh my god, that's so cool. This other apartment I was looking into, the bus kind of ran through this area where they had a public shrine to Santa Muerte. I'm all like, okay, so there's two signs there. I can either stay stagnant into my past, and even though it is comforting and does bring me joy, or I can continue on to moving forward into something that I don't really know. So I ended up moving towards the shrine more so. Relatively both close together, but
I started working with Santa Muerte like a long time ago. I'd say it was like over 10 years ago. And I made a doll for her because I couldn't afford to get one of those fancy statues, kind of like a veil and everything. And as I was sewing it, my hands got really ice fucking cold and numb, like dead hands, and it freaked me out. And I ran my hands under warm water to make it go away because it freaked me out so much. It just wasn't quite the right time. And then she came back actually just this past summer when I was at a really low point, and it was amazing. She said something really beautiful to me. She said something like, come onto my path across time and space. She came as La Negra, and she was talking about the Bible. So she really wanted me to sort of like call her in that, I guess, kind of Catholic way. That's how she presented to me. And I started working with her in that way, sort of doing like the traditional prayers, like the order where you sort of call on the Virgin Mary and the Holy Spirit and the ghost and all of that stuff, you know, just to be like really respectful of the tradition. Eventually, she came to me in a human form. It was like indigenous Mexican form. And it was so cool. It was in a cemetery. And I was like, what is this woman doing here? She was sitting on a grave, and she had the offerings I had given her sitting next to her. And I was like, holy shit, that's fucking Santa Muerte. And she had like, you know, old fashioned sort of like Mexican indigenous garb on, and she was so beautiful. So working with Santa Muerte, what do you get from her, and how has she helped you?
I get comfort. I'm really a lonely person. I don't really have a big circle of friends, and when I do have friends, it's mostly just like a few hours, we'll hang out and then just leave. And with Santa Muerte, I feel like there's a comfort there. You know, no matter how alone I am, I never really feel lonely with her. She's there to protect me, and then she's there to accept my offerings, but I don't ask for protection. I don't really ask for anything. I just kind of say, hey, how are you doing? I just want to let you know that I've noticed your blessings, and I just continue to wish that, hey, if I ever come across your path, or you come across my path, to just, you know, keep me in mind for those blessings again.
Can you guys see in the light? I look like some kind of saint with like rays of light right now. Is that sorry?
Sun is shining.
That's cool, man. Yeah, she's wonderful. She's wonderfully loving and kind and saintly. And I feel like I'm just scratching the surface of her mysteries.
All we really can ask for from her is a long life and a peaceful death when it does come for us.
Ooh, that reminds me of something she said to me. She said something about death, and it was like, she was like, you can't even fucking imagine. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, how wonderful it is. Like, it's like the best experience you can imagine. It's so good.
Well, going on to death, I honestly believe in death is just the next step into consciousness, really. I was just talking to someone at a bar recently that my ideas on reincarnation is a lot like peanut butter. And then they're like, okay, you sparked my interest. What do you mean peanut butter? So as a kid, I was always around death. I went to my first funeral at 1 year old, and after that, it was like 4, 5, one after another after another. And then after that, it became friends dying. But that's besides the point. When I went to these funerals, and when I wasn't really accustomed to feeling these like heavy emotions just yet, my mother always told me that's their shell in the coffin. That's not them. That's just their vessel. Okay, so what's more important in the peanut, the shell or the peanut itself? Peanut, the soul, you know, the energy. And so when the vessel or the shell kind of wears off or expires, you can use that energy into multitude of things, and the energy is only trapped within us because we are the shell. It doesn't matter once that shell is not there anymore, you know. So we kind of get dispersed into other different kinds of energies, and we're mixed around in this kind of peanut butter of energy. I know I'm saying that a lot. And you know how when people say, oh, granddad isn't dead, he's in the laughter of every child, he's in every sunset, you know, he's in every big fish that you catch out on the lake. That's what reincarnation is. It's the mixture of energies into other things.
Forgive me if I already said it, because I am exhausted and delirious. But yeah, something she said to me once was, she said, "Come onto my path across space and time." Just like simple. That's what she said. You have some really interesting family history and roots.
I do. From as far back as I was told that, quoted from my mother, I come from a long line of drunken floozy Bruja. And I said, what do you mean? And she told me, oh, so your great whatever granduncle, however many greats ago it was, during the Spanish-American War, the Mexican-Texan War, or some war, they immigrated from Mexico all the way to Texas with his sisters, where we're like one of them was like my great whatever grandmother. One of them ended up sleeping with another witch's husband, and so kind of put a curse on the women of the Dominguezes. That's my whatever great maiden name. Put a curse on the Dominguezes that whatever husbands that we do have always end up dying. I remember one thing my grandmother always told me is like, oh, mija, 5th time's the charm. I'm all like, what? Yeah, and I got a little freaked out too with my current ex-husband. He recently had a health scare, and I started calling him as soon as I found out. I'm like, oh my God, is everything all right? It turns out everything's fine. He just had a little bit of a sickness, but I think that was the loophole that, don't get married under God and maybe they won't die.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good loophole, right?
Yeah, I like to assume so.
Yeah.
My mother now, she's very spiritual, but spiritual in the Christian sense, I guess. But she was always surprised that I took the left-handed path, and I thought it was hilarious. I'm like, I remember you used to put on Stevie Nicks for us whenever we went to bed, Mom. So, maybe you shouldn't have done that. But I remember also.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
She also taught us a bunch of full moon spells with apples and one red candle and one white candle. I wish I could remember them, but she refuses to talk about it anymore. So there was a time where witchcraft was a part of my younger days.
So when you first went to Santa Muerte Shrine, whenever I go to those shrines that are kept alive, and the energy it just blows me away. It's so incredible. Did it make an impression on you?
It did definitely make an impression on me. It was actually a very solemn vibe when I went there, because there was a bunch of people and they were mourning after their son who had died from gang violence, and felt very honored to have them not necessarily welcome me, but just minded me to be there. It made me think like, yes, this is very welcoming, and my condolences. No one should die like that, but thank you for having me here. I felt welcome. I felt like that there was a family there that I could really find.
Do you feel like you have somewhat of any kind of community when it comes to your spirituality with Santa Muerte or anything like that? Or are you just like pretty solo?
I'm pretty solo. Like I said, I'm a very lonely person. I like to keep it that way when it comes to my spirituality, because I feel that when you bring in more people, it just kind of becomes a little mixed up, because like you said earlier, you can't control what's in people's heads, but you can control what you have.
As you were like talking about your family's history, I was sort of reflecting, because like I live in a really Mexican neighborhood, and a lot of my closest friends and stuff have been from Mexico. I was just thinking about some crazy stories. Because have you been to Mexico before?
I've been a few times when I was a child.
It's a really magical place, and it's so normalized there, like kind of what we consider as Westerners to be like really crazy shit, like is actually, it's just to them, it's just like taken as normal, like crazy magic and witches. And my ex's dad was actually a witch hunter, in Mexico back in the day. That was like a thing. And he told me just crazy stories. Like if I told them, people would think I was fucking crazy. Like skinwalker crazy shit.
I wanted to ask something. So there is an aspect of Mexican culture I am really interested in, and that's like Mexican folk customs, like things you do on holidays, things you do on certain feast days, things you do, because basically that's like a remnant of whatever was before Christianity. And the reason I know this is because we in Serbia also have a bunch of that crazy shit. And when I got into witchcraft or occultism, because I don't like the word witchcraft because of all of those negative connotations and bullshit, I kind of realized that basically those things we do on feast days are actually rituals. We just don't know they are rituals. And so, can you tell us more about that, like a traditional Mexican stuff you do on feast days?
Unfortunately, I can't really speak upon the Mexican culture or the Latin culture way too much. I did grow up in the South, and my mother grew up in the South as well. And being someone who was there in the 70s in the South, if you were any sort of kind of like proud of your heritage, you got your ass kicked. My mother kind of taught me and my sister not to speak Spanish or be quote unquote stereotypical. So when it comes to that, there's a little bit of resentment, a little bit. And I am actively trying to get more in touch with my culture. But I am more Texan in the best of ways than Latin, unfortunately. I mean, it sounds horrible because when you say Texan, you get a lot of negative connotations, but I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's just like your life, it's just you grew up there.
Can you tell us like how your first ritual started, like how it felt, like the first time you ever lit a candle or something?
I was a very edgy teenager. I recently got out of Buddhism at the time, and the Buddhism was very much be the boat within the ocean, just go along with the waves. I'm like, you know what? No, I want to be the wind. I want to be the waves. I want to capsize this boat. So I turned towards LaVeyan Satanism, and of course, when you're a little edgy teenager, you buy the satanic rituals and you end up doing binding spells or banishing spells and rituals like that by yourself and just kind of imagining other people with you. How it felt though, I remember feeling overwhelmed with emotion, and that's what kind of followed me into adulthood in my practices as well. A lot with ritual magic and just magic in general, it tells you to well, people do tell you, hey, balance male and female, good and bad, even though I don't believe in good and bad. I believe in, if you're going to feel an emotion and you're going to do a ritual, you got to feel your emotion wholeheartedly, because that is energy, and that's energy that needs to be escaped and put into one singular goal, no matter what that goal is.
So
And that's
how
why I
did
try not to do baneful magic too much, because it does take a lot out of me. I do happen to not use protection, and that's just bad, Layla. Don't stop fucking doing that. But it does come back at me at times where I would get cysts on my face, or at this one point in time recently, a few months ago, not a few months ago, it's already been about a year. I got a cyst on my spine, and that
Oh,
just messed me
that
up.
sucks. But like, I can only imagine what you were doing, because shit like that takes a lot of energy to build up. And I know
I
what happened when my energy built up. It wasn't a pleasant experience.
know.
But the thing about magic is like you learn that balance is useful once you personally you learn it's useful. Nobody can like teach you that balance is useful. You have to figure it out on your own. That sometimes you have to go like back out from that shit for a while, for a little while. Don't do it too much.
Oh,
yeah
absolutely. I learned to really pick my battles. I'm like, is this really worth
Yeah.
it? Is this really worth my energy? It's not. I'm just gonna get over it.
And
yeah
here is
at,
the
at least at least you only had a topical symptom from doing that, it could have been a lot worse.
Oh no. Ooh. So divination is something I also do. I like to talk to spirits, and there's two of them that I have talked to recently. When I was with my ex-husband, we were at Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and he had two friends that were buried somewhat close to each other in mausoleums. One of them was a very talkative spirit. I don't want to say he's content, but I'm saying that he was very happy to have someone there. He was very like, hey, how's it going, yada yada. I do it with tarot cards. Someone owed him money, or he owed someone money, and this and that. Oh, how are you doing? On and on. He just very talkative. The other one, he was very angry. And I've only
Mm.
met this man once in life. And he was a very polite man, but according to my ex, he was a very angry person in life, and the way he left was not necessarily the most peaceful way either. And he
Who
didn't.
was it, if I may ask?
Oh, Edwin Borsham from Kettle Cadaver.
Yeah, man, I've got a few celebrity ghost stories. That shit's fun. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah,
I've
but
been to
like
Hollywood Cemetery.
some of the
I've done.
spirits and the some of the
But he,
spirits in the graveyards are like just chilling, you know.
yeah, just
They are
very.
just relaxed.
But Edwin was very, very angry that we were there and that we weren't the people that he wanted there. And
Yeah.
I pulled up a card and I'm all like, hey, I think it was the Emperor. And I told my ex, I'm like, hey, I think we should leave. And then his phone went off. I'm all like, that's a sign. Okay, thank you. Gotta go. Close the portal and we left, but something stuck on me. Like when you're cleaning grease off of a Tupperware and you know there's that film there, that's how I could compare it to. It was a film. And I just kept on seeing a lot of bad things whenever I closed my eyes, and I had
Yeah.
a lot of baths.
I did a ritual with Baron Samsi at Hollywood Forever. I'm sure Baron Samsi loved it. Like, I'm sure he loved it. He's a fun party. Like, he likes to party, so I'm sure he was all about it. Have you ever been to that old mansion in LA that it's like this really gorgeous big old mansion and like a dozens of films. They did dozens of films there. What, I can't remember what it's called. It's like something Stone Mansion.
I've
Do you know
only
what I'm
really been to 2, 3 mansions, and all of them are fairly newly built. I think 70s at latest.
So can you tell us like more about your adventures with Satanic Temple? You kind of went on their conventions and it was like funny. Can you tell us more about that shit?
Hot take. My goodness, how am I going to say this without pissing everybody off and getting
I
the
mean,
wrong kind of attention?
we
Well, as long as
appreciate
it's
you pissing
negative,
everybody off.
as
That's a
long as
good
it's
thing.
negative,
I mean,
we're all about like bashing the Church of Satan, if that's what you're worried about.
no, it's not. Well, it's kind of bashing both. I kind of wanted to stray away from the Church of Satan because it seemed a little misogynist, it seemed a little outdated, and maybe there was something more, there's something different. And so that was around the time when the temple started like getting a little bit more popular. And I'm like, oh hey, I like on the surface what these people are talking about, or what Lucian was talking about, wherever the fuck his name is. But the thing was, what I learned later on was that the Satanic Church didn't like him and didn't accept him, so he felt butthurt and said, you know what, I'm going to cherry pick the things that I like and then start my own thing in the guise of what it is, the Satanic Temple. And he does a lot of dog whistling. For someone who's like from Texas, I know a few like white supremacist dog whistles, and I'm like,
Is Lucian the hipster guy that's like basically an atheist?
he has that weird eye thing going on, and I don't want to like dog him for the eye thing because that's body shaming and that's wrong. That's how I would describe him. That's the one thing that I know that he has.
I just like, I don't know those people. I just like saw like a documentary recently about the Church of Satan, and it was like one of the leaders of it. I don't know. I can't remember what his title was, but he was just like a really obnoxious hipster, and he talked about theism. So basically anyone that believes in spirituality, he called them theists, like it was a bad word, like those people were losers or something.
The basic teachings of the Church of Satan, the theists kind of are in a bad light. That's another reason why I kind of wanted to stray away from that, because I'm like, it just can't be nothing. It has to be something there.
Yes.
Does it make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah.
But what I am interested in is how they really make sense of everything they do is nothing if nothing exists. Like you are spending hours and hours lighting candles and calling Satan and then you claim nothing exists. What's like their rationale?
I think their rationality is more on the theatrics,
Yeah.
and kind of just, honestly, it's been so while since I read the Satanic Bible.
I agree with you. Like Anton LaVey the reason he was able to kind of popularize all of that was through the, he came from like a family of circus performers, right?
He was a showman.
Yeah, and so he like had all those theatrics and stuff, and that's what they're doing. They're into the theater of it. It doesn't have anything to do with spirituality.
It's psyching yourself up.
Yeah, it's materialism and it's just materialism.
It's looking at the "you can do it" poster.
Yeah.
Hang in there.
So how did you go from that to working with Lucifer and Belial and Osmodeus?
So, like with Catholicism, I kind of started asking myself a little bit too many questions. But instead of being excommunicated, I just said, you know what, like, okay, I'm just going to be doing a lot of research, a lot more ritual work, and see what kind of comes to me. And I do kind of get a lot of my visions and dreams. And Osmodeus came to me twice. I would rather not get into that, otherwise we're gonna start an OnlyFans. But after that, it just kind of, all right, well, now I know this is a thing. Let's see what else happens. And so I looked more into him, and then I realized that he was just more than just a lustful deity, that he also commands into finances, and just all in all, along with Lucifer, knowledge, just kind of pursuing the sake of knowledge just for the sake of knowledge, just to kind of help you grow. What also I appreciated about it is that, unlike with when people's like, oh, I worship angels and specific angels specifically, angels don't know what it's like to suffer, you know? Demons do, and they feed off of that. And I don't want to say that the more you suffer, the more that they're going to look kindly upon you, because you can learn nothing from suffering. You have to take the gumption to learn from your mistakes.
I have heard demons say things to me that is along those exact same lines. Basically that they've paid their price, and that they just say that like they understand that the toll that we have as mortals.
Absolutely. That's why whenever I can't find the time to do ritual or actually have in my personal opinion, a good enough offering to either Lucifer, Asmodeus, or Belial, I do something uncomfortable. I take a cold shower, or I suck on a lemon. It's within feeling alive in their sake, that I know that they accept it.
You say you stopped doing baneful work. When you would do baneful work, was it with those spirits?
It would be mostly with a spirit that I would rather not call upon at the moment.
Can you tell us what realm? Like, was it infernal? Was it a necromantic? Was it like? Can you just tell us like what realm it was?
Oh, definitely necromantic. Goodness.
Okay.
Because, like I said, death was very much a part of my life. So it was very easy to just be very intimate with them. And I felt that within that kind of, I don't want to say easiness, because there's a lot more better words for that. I just can't think of them at the moment.
Recklessness. Like when you do it a lot, you become reckless in a way. Like you just do it. It's like having a shotgun and shooting too many times. It becomes like a second reflex.
Yes.
Like you just recognize the situation and you just trigger. And sometimes you trigger even when you shouldn't. Sometimes you trigger when you don't know what the consequences are. And then you realize one day, you wake up and realize that you cannot count how many times you did it. And you cannot even count like what number is it exactly. You just know you did it so many times that you actually have to fight yourself not to do it. Like whenever you have a problem of any sort, you just have to force yourself out to squeeze that little motherfucker inside of you who wanna do it. And this is when you kind of have to pause. And this is when like illnesses and all kinds of other shit start appearing out of nowhere. There is that like red line which a lot of serious darker practitioners cross, where basically you lose yourself in that. And there is a danger to that, because to me personally, and to majority of people who like did it a lot, it gives you a high. and it's a high which is equivalent to like taking enormous amounts of like speed or something. Like it's the same ridiculous intense emotion which literally lifts you up.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I can
yeah.
tell you exactly the high I felt when I saw exactly what came into fruition and what exactly I wanted to come into fruition.
Yeah, motherfucker. Yeah,
But at this moment I like I said, I am learning how to pick my battles, and
yeah,
is this really worth it? You know what? Maybe it's not. I kind of, Layla, slow your roll.
yeah, yeah,
I have a, let's just say I have a tool that saw a lot of action in Mexico that I've used for some different rituals and things, and that thing is fucking scary. Dimitri knows
yeah.
what I'm
And we
about.
had to like clean that shit because we had a bunch of dead people hanging in the house because of that single object. It was crazy. Like once objects see certain action, it's like they become like walking portals. So you have to like clean them. But basically the object saw so much action that like after you stop cleaning it for a time, it opens up again. Like it's a walking, talking gateway. And I was like, this is cool. Like this is cool. But like then he's like, no, no, no. I see a bunch of dead people. I have nightmares. I don't know what to do. And I was like,
You
okay,
always
like
say that. No, 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 that's not what
just
happened.
like clean the thing.
What
But like it's
happened was,
okay because like the shit around it was so like degenerate and scary that I was like, this is fucked. This is like not because look, I worked with a lot of dead motherfuckers, right? That's
Mhm.
my job, right? Working with weird shit. But shit around that object, it's like, okay, this is like not. This can get out of control. Let's clean this in salt and water, like, cause like there is like a thing, like when you work with those dead fuckers, you kind of realize that we are all fucked up, and so they basically hang around you and they start triggering the fucked up aspects of you. And so when they hang around for a really long time, you basically instinctively turn into a clusterfuck. And so you have to like walk back for a second. And
yeah.
today, me and Danny were like having a discussion about baneful magic. And I was like trying to explain to her how it actually works. So basically, you send a motherfucker, and that other motherfucker attaches to them. And the only job of that motherfucker is to exacerbate the already existing flaws of a motherfucker. So his job is to basically help that person really good to fuck themselves as soon as possible without nobody connecting it to you. And
Mhm.
so that's the main part of doing it. And so basically, when you have a crazy object in your house, that's kind of 24/7 curse. Because, like, those crazy motherfuckers, they gonna fuck with you too. Like, and they are going to, like, indiscriminately fuck with people. And that's a problem with those negative objects. Like, it doesn't choose. You can't, like, have a shit like that and then you, like, choose, oh, it's gonna influence this motherfucker and not this motherfucker. No, it's like, how to put it? It's like a well of water and whoever is near it will get wet.
Yeah.
But it does work quickly. And
Yeah, it does.
I'm glad you perceive me as this damsel in distress. You're exactly where I want you.
That being said, I do like collecting small little things. Fun shit. Like, I was looking at this from the back, and Mattel put out their own line of occultism for children. Pop
Oh.
by Mattel. Fun
What
shit.
what year is that from? Or like roughly?
Oh, 1978, I think. It has a date on
Oh.
there. But
yeah, that was an experimental time.
yeah. This one was really fun. It has one on astrology. They have one on tarot cards, and they have one on something else. I think it's angel numbers or
Oh,
numerology.
really?
Yeah, I've yet to collect
Wow.
those yet.
I wonder if they have their own line of like Scientology or like Church of God or like I don't
Oh,
know.
they have the angel board. Have you
Okay.
heard of that? It's basically a Ouija board, but they have pictures of angels on it.
Dude, that's great. You're a collector of some good stuff there, man.
Oh, I got a pink Ouija board too. And it has like little cards to say, "Oh, will David ask me out to prom?"
Oh yeah, man, and we can't forget the classic 8 ball too, That was like, yeah, that was good.
We sell those
Uh
at, and every now and then I'm all like, "Should I get pizza?"
Yeah, but when you mentioned Ouija boards, did you know, guys, that Ouija boards were originally spirit guides and angel boards? And then a movie Exorcist came out with people playing with a Ouija board, and then everyone started thinking Ouija boards are exclusively demonic. But originally, people
Howdy.
used them to contact all kinds of stuff, and they originally had like entire set of rituals connected to Ouija boards to
oh, you
like
would have to
contact
have a
only
set of
particular
rituals
spirits.
for it to
And
not be fucked up. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But originally people used to come in big groups like 25 motherfuckers, and they would raise the protective circle, and then they would all together call a spirit with the Ouija board, and then shit would start levitating and stuff. Like there is a guy from Croatia who is a scientist who witnessed that shit, and stuff actually levitated, it actually flew from the ground. But like today, people mostly use Ouija boards differently. Like it's not so
Like it's a
serious.
party game.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But a lot of those fuckers get fucked up because actually, the worst thing you can do with Ouija board like that is to actually call something, because then you have a problem.
Oh, absolutely. You never call on anything specifically. At least that's from what I've read. I've never actually practiced with a Ouija board before because it's only been myself. So, you
Oh
know.
man. Every time I did a Ouija board, I was in communication with stuff and it was always fucked up. It was always crazy and fucked up. It did sort of help me like realize how to kind of do automatic writing and just kind of use my hands, as a channeling tool and stuff like that. But it was always bad, always really bad. But I didn't like do any proper, whatever that means. I didn't do anything to call something that was like elevated or anything. I just like wanted to talk to whatever wanted to talk just because I was curious. So that's what I would
Yeah,
get.
talk to Captain Howdy.
Yeah. Do you have how much time do you have just so we can gauge like how much we can talk about?
Um, I can talk for like another 10-20 minutes.
Okay. I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick and I'll be right back. And
Absolutely.
okay.
Yeah, I have some books here. I like them. Some of them I got from I used to work at a park in Orange County, and then there was this regular that we used to have that was really into occultism as well. I forgot how we ended up talking about it because Orange County was very Christiany or Mormon. You were either or. Um, but I have summoning spirits.
Guy Constantinos, yeah, classic. Yeah, 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 yeah. A lot of cool books, I may add. So basically, because like you have maybe 20 minutes remaining, is there any important message you have to give to people who are just starting occultism or starting magic? What is like your advice to them?
You don't have to have other people with you. It doesn't have to be a group thing. You can be within yourself. As an occultist, former Satanist, someone who goes upon the left-hand path, um, I just mentioned this at work, which is hilarious, that, the Bible says that a church isn't in a building, it's within yourself. And I believe in that with a lot of spiritualism. It doesn't come within community, it can come within yourself. And you can find enlightenment within that. I I really do believe that there's a lot of power that can come from solitude. But don't take it overboard, because you can't take it overboard. Like, moderation. Touch some grass.
So
Read the
basically,
Lesser Key of Solomon.
yeah. This is like something I see a lot. Basically, people start relationships with those spirits, and then they start over relying on spirits without realizing that you actually have to rely on your own power and cooperate with the spirit. You conjure the
Absolutely.
spirits to commune with them, to cooperate with them, to make a
These spirits
covenant
are
with
not your
them.
friends.
Yeah, you have to cooperate. You can't just rely on external force to do everything. Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
a really good point. I agree. 157 fucking percent. Yeah.
I have a question. So, in your work with Lucifer and Asmodeus and Belial, um, do you feel like it's been pretty much all positive? Do you feel like that there are hazards to that, or that you need to counterbalance that sometimes? Like, what's your overall take on those influences in your life?
My raw take is that if you're not ready to accept your all the work that you put in before you've met them, if you're not willing to accept losing all your work and taking, like, going way back into step one again,
Mm-hmm.
then don't bother, because they will make sure that they mean business and that you deserve, their help, their blessing, their whatever you really ask for. Don't really ask for anything specifically. Don't ask for anything specifically and say, "Oh, well, I'll be yada yada yada," in, like, bartering. Never, because you can never really hold up to that kind of expectation that they will hold you to.
Mm-hmm.
But just kind of, be very careful with your words.
Mm-hmm.
Never conjure them, never talk to them while you're inebriated, even though in some cultures they do require inebriation. These are not the type. Do
Mm-hmm.
as much research as you possibly can. Yeah. Do your homework. Basically, like I said, touch some grass, read the Lesser Key of Solomon. It will help you. These demons, these deities, they're not your friends. They're there to be business partners, in other words.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah.
interesting because, like, in the other pantheons I work in, like, say voodoo,
Mm-hmm.
um, I those are my family members, So basically, like, they're just always looking out for my benefit and my protection no matter what. Like, they spoil me like a child.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very different kind of relationship than what you have with the infernals. Although they
Yeah.
can do just as much, they can do all kinds of fuckery, and, like, they can do really crazy shit, but it's just not the same type of relationship. It's like you said, it's not like that business type of thing. It's more familial.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, I need to like tell two stories because, like, yes, demons are dangerous. It can be doom and gloom. They set shit on fire. But I need to say two stories of me and Danny like working with them. So the first story is like Danny like lost her luggage and she like went ballistic. We were like in France and we did the spell to find the luggage, and it was found within a day and a half, I think. It was like bad shit. And a second story is like we were doing a ritual to call a specific person on our show, like a really specific name, a really specific guy. And few months down the line, like it came out of nowhere. So yes, it's dark. Yes, it's heavy. Yes, it's difficult. But if you know what you are doing, you're gonna get what you asked for. But nobody tells you ever that it's gonna be an easy thing.
No.
And what?
But she was saying you shouldn't ask for something specific. So you're
Yeah.
talking about practical, like voodoo is perfect for practical stuff like you're talking about. But infernal's not, I mean, they might give you what you want at times, but it's not practical like what you're talking about.
So
It's
I need to
it,
like say, because I know what Layla is referring to. Like what Layla is saying is that when you start building relationship with them, when you are getting to know them, when you are building that bridge, you don't ask them for shit. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
nobody owes you anything. Like nobody owes you any fucking shit.
It's a lot of
And
tough
so yeah,
love.
you can ask them for things later down the line if you need something urgently, but obviously as Layla said in the beginning, you shouldn't ask for shit, you know? Like you are supposed to build things up first.
well,
They want you to build a relationship with them.
Yeah.
But also another thing that I would like to give, I don't want to say baby witches because that's such a pop culture not reference, but such a pop culture like term. But for someone getting into, magic for the first time, a book that I would recommend that really spelt it out, just held my hand throughout the entire thing. And it's not going to be very deep or meaningful, but it did help me get into it. I stole this from the San Antonio Library. I do apologize. But it's called The Urban Primitive. And it talks about old gods and how old gods don't necessarily die out, but they become new ones in different forms, and how to give them offerings and how to kind of practice within the city when you don't really have nature around you. Kind of paganism in a way.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
that's
I
cool.
really like this one. I recommend it.
Okay, so you really nailed the motherfucker there. So because old gods are really nature based, it's really difficult to venerate those old forces without being in nature. So because you are one of the like 5 people on this show who know what they are talking about, can you tell us, you know, how to be in communion with those forces which are anti-civilizational in a urban city setting? Like how to solve that problem, how to crack that nut.
How to crack that nut? You have to kind of realize what else do they have power with. Um, Hermes, for a second. He is my quote unquote patron god because I'm a Gemini. Um, go to a hospital. Go to a hospital. Give nurses energy drinks. Make sure you're
Wow, wow.
give an offering to them because that's who he kind of looks over upon. You know, that's what the staff was. That's who he is. Say hello to your post office worker. That kind of thing. With Aries, go to your local gym and offer chips and salsa because he likes spicy foods.
Is
What
that
else?
something you've actually done?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
I used to be a bodybuilder for a
Oh
good second
wow.
until I couldn't afford
Cool.
eating the way that I had to. But
That's
yeah,
cool.
what else? With the goddess whore, she go to a strip club, one that you won't go back to, by the way, and give a stripper a $20 bill and walk the fuck out. And that's how you give offerings to the old gods. You just kind of figure out where their dwellings are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and I definitely agree with you. And I'm gonna give like a really crazy example. So Nama is like a spirit I work with. She corresponds heavily with like dark underground places. And me and my best friend, we went to some techno club or something, and it was literally underground.
Oh,
And
how
like it was full of dark energy. You know, it was full of that darkness, gloominess, heaviness. And I just called Nama, and she was poof. You know, she came in like 3 seconds. You know, they
Nama
really
is, you're familiar
correspond
with
to
Lilith,
places and
right?
people. You are 100% right.
Yeah, you're
I've
familiar. Are you familiar with Nama? I'm sure you're at least familiar with Lilith.
oh yes, I am familiar with Lilith.
So Nama, so the four queens of hell are Lilith, Nama, Agrat, Bat Milat, and Aeshet, and they're all related, and they're all succubi, and yeah. So Nama, he's talking about Nama.
Nice. I need to
Yeah.
really read more up on them.
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
believe that you never stop learning. There's always something you can always learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it goes back into Lucifer, Belial. Just continue to learn for the fucking sake of knowledge.
Yeah. I remember, when I had that short conversation with you on the phone before this, and you mentioned who you worked with, and I mentioned that Lucifer puts me in the craziest situations, and I'm like, how did I get here? Like, what the hell is happening? And you said that you kind of have a similar, like, he does stuff like that with you too.
So you want to hear how I ended up in my first band in LA because of Lucifer?
Yeah.
So first, I started working with him when I was in high school. Around the same damn shit happened, but with different people. In high school, it was, oh, I was going to kick your ass, but I decided to be your friend instead. So in LA, a few years later, I was a little bit more of a practitioner, and I did some rituals, and I was a bassist. I was looking for a band, but I wasn't really getting anywhere. And I'm like, you know what? Just open some doors, please. I'll go through them. Just
Uh-huh.
shine some light into something, please.
Uh-huh.
I'm not even asking for a good band. I'm not even asking for a band. Kind of, I'm in the dark here. And so there was this one gentleman that I was talking to on no, not Facebook, MySpace for a long time. He was a drummer for some punk band in the 90s. Anyway, so I met up with him, and he's like, "Oh, Layla, meet my wife." I'm like, "Oh, hi, wife." To the best of my memory, this was the first time I met her. But apparently, I met her the night before when I was blacked out drunk, and I called her a coke-whore, and I disappeared into the night when she was going to kick my ass. But this night, she says, "Oh, well, we have drugs and we have booze at our place. It's around last call. You want to come over?" I'm like, "Oh, hell yeah, I would like to." So I go over. We all start participating in other nefarious things. And she starts to OD. So me and the drummer take her by the arms and the legs, go on the subway, go taking the bus, and we're like, okay, she's dying. There's no way we can make it to Cedar Sinai and have her like live through this. So I go over to this car, and this car was idling, and I told him, I'll give you $3 and a blowjob if you take us to the nearest hospital. And so we get in, he takes us to the ER. I gave him the $3 and I slammed the door. I'm like, what's this dude gonna do? Come into the ER yelling, she owes me a blowjob. Anyway, so on the taxi, she survived. On the taxi ride back home, she's like, well, we were gonna drug you up and kick your ass, but I guess you saved my life. So do you want to be in our band? Yeah.
Sounds like him. Yeah.
Absolutely. That band was a hell of an experience. And he kind of exactly what I exactly what I fucking expected, shined a light into something that I needed light shining into. He is the morning
Oh
star.
yeah.
And that,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah.
And he made me realize, hey, maybe being a musician is not necessarily something that you need to pursue. You need to pursue other creative endeavors. And so that's why
Yeah.
I'm working on the first book.
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. Well, he made me miss my flight when I was in a remote Eastern European country this summer.
No.
And he told me, so like the day before I missed my flight, he came and was like, "Hey, what's up?" And then I missed it. And I was like, "Motherfucker," you know? And then I was like herding sheep in the mountains of Eastern Europe for like a month, like totally
Okay.
totally off the, off the plan, like totally like yeah. Anyway.
That's really cool. How
Yeah.
herding sheep?
It was really beautiful area. It was completely. I mean, me and Dimitri, we worked a lot with the local spirits there. So, like the Fae, basically, the spirits of the mountains, the spirits of the forest. And so I don't know if you've ever had experience working with the Fae, but there are some motherfuckers, man.
Yeah, I've heard things. I try to stay away from the Fae.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily they're not necessarily a type of being that I would feel comfortable working with because I
Mm-hmm.
So
know a lot
so
about.
basically so basically like
But I
see
do.
it as feeding local wildlife. Just
Mhm,
wildlife is like super intelligent. Like
absolutely.
see it as feeding super intelligent local wildlife who can help you but also fuck you up. And when you work with the Fae, you basically have to forget everything you learned. Because
Mhm,
the first thing you learn when you work with other spirits is you have to summon something. But the thing with the Fae is you don't summon them, they are already there. You just make a connection, you just make communication. And what you also learn really, really quickly when you work with the Fae is that ordinary protection you are usually trained to use doesn't work on them because they already live in a space you are calling them in. So it's
mhm,
like trying to banish a dog with a lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. It basically has the same effect. So the
yeah.
only thing you can really do is negotiate with them as soon as you make contact. But for whatever reason, as long as you don't burn half of the forest and you don't make contact, they are almost not allowed to intervene. So they are really weird fellows.
Secrecy is the main thing with them.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
have a very positive energy, like their very presence is healing. So they're not that, you just have to kind of know the rules and you have to listen to what they tell you and you just don't break them. The other thing Lucifer had in store for me though is he wanted me to go to the Roman ruins that were there, which were extremely remote and grown over, like not maintained at all. But we went, yeah, we found these Roman ruins that were like in a field somewhere. We had to like look for it through like fields and tall grass and like corn and like get to it. um but that was cool, and we did rituals for him at the actual like Roman ruins. And there
Wow.
was like yeah, there was pillars, like they had the pillars and they were all crackly and stuff. And I was like, can I just take like a tiny little piece from the pillar? Like no one even like. And he was like, no. So I took a piece and I put it in my mouth and I held it in my mouth and then I put it back. And I was like, that's my like communing with ancient Romans.
That's really cool. I would like to see something that old.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think I to do
but
with
and
myself.
like we went to like a really really old graveyard in my area. Like the
Mhm.
tombstones are so big that they are almost megalithic. Like
Yeah, they're
each
megalithic.
tombstone is a, yeah, it's like it's almost megalithic, not really megalithic, but it looks alike, right? And each
Yeah.
tombstone is at least 200 pounds, if not more, right? So
Oh, they're
it's
way
really
more than
big and heavy.
pounds. Way more.
Yeah, way big, ridiculous. And so when you call spirits from those really old cultic graveyards, they feel nothing like spirits from modern graveyards. Because that amount of like veneration and worship and cultic behavior around them really turns them into holy beings. Like elevated energy. And they are super powerful, but as long as you know basic stuff, they don't harm anybody, and they are really friendly and like familial. It's
Mhm.
super interesting experience, which really changed the way I see necromancy.
So Layla, we're at you said you had 10 or 20 minutes and we're at 24 minutes, so I don't want to keep you from whatever you have to go, and do.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do have other things to go participate in, and I do have to cut this short, unfortunately. I do enjoy talking to all of you, and I would love to come back onto the show again.